Just let us know when we're good. Good? Okay. All right, good evening. This is the Personnel Policy and Administration Committee meeting for August 17th, 2022. We will start with the communication relation update from Tom Green.
All right, well, as we were just talking about off the air, a lot of our work the last week or so has been in coordinating with incredible gratitude, several large donations of school supplies, backpacks from members of the community. I told somebody the other day, I'm starting my 17th year, and I'm still a little bit amazed and somewhat flabbergasted at the number of people who do not understand that this community has needs, like any community. And we have people who step up with hearts as big as Texas and just donate boxes and boxes and bags of school supplies, which we then give to our media schools, that the principals kind of take what they need. As moms and dads have been coming up here to register or to see people, if I see them out in the foyer, I just simply say, "Sir, do you still need school supplies? Come on in back." So, it's a service that we can provide, and I'm happy to do it. The other thing we've been focusing on is introducing Dr. Wood as the new superintendent. We got his first column out last week. We had him on yesterday morning with WJOL with Scott Slocum to introduce him. That's a powerful, it's the only AM radio station in this community. And Mr. Slocum is one of those people where it's good to know it because he knows everybody. And so we had that happen. And then Linda and Kelly are working with Glenn on a long form video, a 3 to 5 minute video to kind of introduce who he is, his educational vision for District 202, kind of where we go, post pandemic, what his dreams are for the district. And so that'll be done in the next 2 weeks and ready to go. And that's in addition to the work that we continue to do with Dr. Brown to create kind of a recruitment type video. So, and of course, tomorrow and Friday we'll be all over the district recording the first 2 days of school, both in terms of pictures and videos, which is always a great time. Always interesting to see the moms, and sometimes the dads, but mainly the moms who are sobbing because their children are going into school and the kids are going, "Mom, I'll be fine. It's all right. This is good. I was here 2 nights ago. It's okay." So some of you who are principals know that experience. Yeah, sure. It's usually the parents who you have to talk in off the ledge because they're the ones who are more nervous than the kids. The kids are excited and ready to go. Always a great time of the year.
Great, awesome, thank you. Okay, tonight's agenda, we have one policy to discuss. This is an action item. It's policy 7:15, student and family privacy rights. This policy was updated in response to a 5-year review. The policy gives guidance related to surveys. It is our current practice that all surveys requesting personal information from students must be related to board policy 6:10, educational philosophy and objectives, and parents are allowed 72-hour notice to review the survey prior to the survey going out to students. This policy prohibits the selling or marketing of student personal information, which is our current practice. And lastly, the policy outlines notifications of rights and procedures for parents. And this particular policy has an exhibit tied to it, which is a sample copy of the notification to parents and family rights. So there's very little change to this policy.
The exhibit that's tied to this is that just for like internal?
It is for internal use, but it is actually on the website, attached right underneath the actual policy. Yeah. All right, and we have 4 items under other. The first 2 items are action items. The 2 items are the guidelines for reciprocal reporting and cooperation between the Plainfield School District 202 and the Village of Bolingbrook. And the second one is with the Village of Romeoville. So for this, I'll turn it over to Ms. Shannon Miller-Finlayson regarding these 2 items.
Each year we need to renew our a reciprocal reporting agreement between both the village of Romeoville and the village of Bolingbrook. And so these documents have both been given to Romeoville and to Bolingbrook for review, and they agreed upon it. And that's just for us to be able to exchange information in the event crises, or we even have a great rapport with Romeoville. They will report to our schools if they feel a student, due to an incident outside of the school day, needs some extra support within the school day, such as unfortunately maybe a domestic issue that occurred at home that we may not know to, but they have an officer that will report that to us. They're very, very receptive to that. And I was, just a little plug, I was able to meet with Romeoville's chief, and we have DARE now in the Lakewood Falls School and Creekside. So to offer it not only to our Plainfield, but those two schools, Romeoville is going to offer it because the majority of their residents are Romeoville residents. Our students, the majority of them are Romeoville, sorry.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about the delay with Joliet and Plainfield?
Oh, sure. So Plainfield, the village of Plainfield is having a new chief, has been given a new chief of police, and so he will be signing all of their agreements. So since they didn't name a chief until a little bit later in July, we're waiting for their agreement. And then the city of Joliet their agreement went to the city council, and they asked for reimbursement to be removed from the agreement. So we sent it to our attorneys to make sure that was okay, and they should be sending it to city council at the end of the month. So hopefully you'll see both of those in September.
May I double back on one thing?
Yeah.
The last 2 years, our department has worked on and produced two, what I'd like to call capstone projects, two very large projects. 2 years ago, it was kind of a year in the life of the pandemic. It was a year-long project. And last year, something similar. This year, we're focusing on something similar having to do with the special programming over Plainfield Academy. This year, and to Shannon's report, the timing couldn't be more perfect, sadly. But our capstone project is going to be about security, and we're going to work with Shannon to outline the many, many things that we already do and have been doing, frankly, for 15 years now. Most especially building these relationships with our local police departments. And we've said it many times rhetorically, but it cannot be overstressed how incredibly important it is that we work hand in hand with our public safety officers, who are the ones who have the knowledge and the insight and frankly the law on their side to help protect our kids and our staff. That's not just luck. We've worked on building those relationships for a couple of years. Shannon has continued that work in the last couple of years. So when we do something here in District 202 related to safety, it's because the police have told us to. This is the best practice, says the police officer. And it's interesting because they don't always agree. So we're part of those conversations too. And seeing as how we serve 7 different communities, that can be important. So kudos to Shannon, but that's going to be our year-long big deal project this year too.
Great, thank you. Kind of goes to our next item. The next item under other is just an FYI item. Ms. Miller Finlayson will be giving us a safety update regarding the 22-23 school year.
Sure. The safety committee did meet in July, like we do every month. We meet every month as a committee. We have added some new members to our committee. The police departments of Joliet and Will County. They have always been invited, but I've been a little more persistent about their presence at our monthly meetings just to have some good conversation and good practices. And then the Plainfield Fire Department and Joliet Department Joliet will not be joining us until September, but they have been invited. And Plainfield Fire has been very persistent to come because of my persistence. So it's kind of a nice opportunity for us to gain some members and just get insight from all points of view in the event of a crisis, and planning for a crisis and just some of our drills. So we did meet in July. They were a part of finalizing our safety memos that we sent out to our employees in early August. Earlier this month, the safety committee in collaboration with Dr. Wood posted all of our ALICE materials on the district website, informing our community that we will be revisiting the ALICE training that we started many years ago with the Plainfield Police Department. Of the first quarter of the school year, all of our buildings will be trained, both staff and students, age appropriately, with the ALICE optional based response to an intruder. The safety committee also had the opportunity to present ALICE to all new teachers earlier this month and gave them a copy of the classroom action guide that they should see in their classroom. The safety committee implemented the requirements for buildings to provide classroom action guides in each of our substitute teachers that report to our buildings on a daily basis. That classroom action guide gives you what we call a 6 square of common language. If you remember last month, I spoke about how Dr. Sean Walsh at the ROE took our classroom action guide and is going to use it with the Will County schools because he liked the common language. That's what we'll be providing to substitutes each and every day. And we also will be having our new substitutes that we bring on board, and our current substitutes will be required to watch the ALICE training video that we recorded at the instruction as part of their onboarding, as we would call employment here in the district. And we're hoping that we'll get all of them to do that by October 1st, just kind of like the GCNs. The safety committee will also be offering ALICE training to the district office, our technology building, and our OMT building. They don't house children, but they are just as vulnerable to any type of crisis as our buildings. And then lastly, the members of our safety committee will be attending the Illinois School Safety Conference on October 6th. That's offered in Lisle. It's sponsored by ISB, Illinois Emergency Management, the Illinois School Resource Officers Association, the Illinois State Police, and then the Illinois Statewide Terrorism and Intelligence Center and Safer Schools Together. So it's a pretty neat conference that I've gone to for I just went last year because it wasn't there during COVID year. And it was a neat opportunity to hear what other people are doing in the state, not only what's happening here in the Chicagoland area. And then, of course, we will continue to meet monthly, reviewing and monitoring our safety procedures and working collaboratively with our local municipalities. So.
Okay, the last item, I would like to give a staffing update. This is just an FYI for the 22-23 school year. So we have a short slide presentation just to capture where we stand as far as our certified and non-certified staffing. This is as of today. These numbers are very fluid, and I have to commend our building principals for getting us to this point. They have done a great job in interviewing and securing most of our positions here. So starting with on the first slide, we have the total certified filled and vacant position. In our system, we have a total of 2,049 certified positions. Of these positions, 194 are new. They were new hires for this year. And we only have 52 positions that are unfilled as of today. All our core subject areas are filled. Some of these positions to fill the void and the gaps will be covered through an overload through our certified staff. You'll notice on this slide, the biggest category is our LBS 1 positions or our special education positions with 22 vacancies. Our principals are continuing to interview and identifying the suitable candidate for these positions. The next slide, we'll talk about strategies we'll implement to support these vacancies, specifically our special education classes, but it really starts with our substitute teachers. We created supplemental sub positions for each of our vacant positions. We currently have 443 active certified subs ready to start. And we are in the process of securing 105. They are in the process of finalizing the paperwork on top of the 443. I will tell you, this is a much larger number than where we were this time last year. This time last year, certified subs, including our perm subs, we were at about 207. So this number here doesn't even include our perm subs. So in addition to this, each building is allocated perm subs. We have filled 91 of those positions. We still have 8 vacant positions. So these permanent subs will report daily to the building starting September 6th. But prior to September 6th, they will be picking up some of these vacant positions. The LBS one position specifically, to fill the gap, we will be looking at certified substitute teachers. And we're implementing a collaborative model in lieu of a co-taught model at the middle school and high school level. So this means we're pairing an LBS one teacher and a paraprofessional to work between 2 classes each period instead of 1 class each period. The teacher will provide the initial instructions in all portions of the IEP, and then the paraprofessional will reteach, provide accommodations, work in small groups, and provide administer testing accommodations. In addition to that, we do have specifically at the high school level overload positions. What that means is a teacher is taking an extra class in lieu of her plan period or his or her plan period. And the final way is through internal subs. Our certified teachers are gracious enough to help out where they can, when they can, in which they, in lieu of getting their plan period, they will fill in classes that don't have a teacher in there. So these are some strategies to help fill our certified positions. The next slide, we'll talk about our non-certified positions. Our non-certified, we have a total of 1,116 non-certified positions district-wide, and we currently have 112 vacant positions. The areas of concern here are in the paraprofessional. We currently have 65 vacancies. Lunchroom supervisors, we have 20 vacancies, and custodial positions, we have 16 vacancies. The next slide will show the strategies we're going to use to support these non-certified vacancies. Again, it will start with our substitute positions. We currently have active, ready to go, 43 paraprofessional substitutes, 57 lunchroom substitutes, 53 custodial, and 15 nurses. So we create supplemental sub positions in ASAP for these substitutes to take these jobs on a daily basis. In addition to that, we have internal subbing with the current staff to assist with both custodial and paraprofessional positions. Our current paraprofessionals will modify their daily schedule to cover classes that aren't covered. And lastly, we do have some lunchroom supervisors who are also certified to sub. So what they'll do is they will do their lunchroom duties, and then they're also in our system as a sub, and which allows them to sub for 0.5 or half of a day. Overall, with our kids coming tomorrow, which we are super excited for, we feel we're in a good place to welcome them back and to support it between our existing staff and our substitutes. Until we find a suitable candidate, we feel we're in a good place. And I have to thank building administration for getting us to this point and identifying, 194 teachers who I have to tell you, I feel they had a great experience in induction last year. Kudos to curriculum instruction and student services for organizing a great opportunity. So that is a summary of where we are.
I have a question. Sure. Just given how much teachers have taken on the past several years and all the shift of duties and how the day looked because of COVID protocols and stuff, to be coming back in something like the first normal year, to be short-staffed, is there a way to gather feedback from them to make sure like they're not feeling, we don't want people burnt out by Labor Day weekend?
Yeah, so 2 ways that we do that. All of our schools survey at the end of the school year to give us an idea of what we need to start doing different. And I will tell you, internal subbing was a big topic. And so this year, we have asked our buildings to survey the staff to see there are some staff who want us internal every day, they're fine with it. And there are some who really want their plan time. So our buildings are putting a system in place to have the go-to people first and then have a last resort and put them through a rotation to try to minimize the times teachers have to use their plan time. I will tell you that area is the biggest stressor on our staff. We recognize it, and we're really trying to create a system which limits the same person who doesn't want to do it having to do it.
And then the shortage of the special ed teachers, the plan to pair them with a para, but we're short so many paras too.
Yes, so, in talking with Mina, the buildings, only some buildings are in this position where they have to do it. They have the paraprofessional, I'll use Plainfield South as the example, because they are one of them, that I believe are short 4 or 5 teachers, but are fully staffed in their para. We are only using this collaborative model in the buildings that need it and it can work. The buildings that don't, we don't need to put it, that means they have enough staff to just run a regular, model that they want.
This won't come as news to anybody at this table, but there was a good story in the Herald News yesterday or today that says basically we're not the only ones. That is why it's waited for a while, and it's getting worse.
I totally agree. We're not the only ones. But of course, we worry about us.
We do.
That's our role.
Right.
And have some incredibly talented teachers and paraprofessionals and custodians and lunchroom supervisors who are in it for the right reason. This is where they belong. Just wanting to protect that. It's a tough year.
It is. And, you know, we have an emphasis on culture, you know, creating a culture in a building where no one wants to leave. And valuing all of our employees who come and work, you know, more hours, some of them, to help build the void, is really a big initiative that we have. The culture of a building is huge in, you know, sustaining us.
I agree. Like I just.
It's our emphasis.
Yep. Yep. All right. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right. Welcome, everyone. This is the Curriculum and Technology Committee meeting for Wednesday, August 17th. We can go ahead and start.
Hey, everyone, we're starting out with, there are 6 information items this evening, and there are 2 approval items. So we'll start out, first of all, with the curriculum and technology calendar recommendation for this year. If you take a look at the calendar that we have, it's loosely based off of previous years. The only thing that we would perhaps recommend out of CNI is the information item, which is listed as the achievement update for September 21st, to move that to October 19th, because we learned recently of the timeline of the state, and that report card won't be open to administrators until October 3rd. So there's pieces to our presentation that we rely on from the state. So we would look to move the achievement update from September to October, and maybe move one of the other ones, probably the gifted honors presentation, over to September. So just to switch those 2 presentations. So is there anything in the calendar, anything else in that calendar that you'd like to discuss?
I just want to be sure again that the February meeting is not overloaded. Last year, the mid-year discipline report and the spotlight on digital learning and innovation was both very long.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could look, probably, obviously the timing is right for the mid-year discipline. We could look to move the digital learning. I think January, February, March are all have pretty heavy months in terms of presentations. Would you have a recommendation of where, I'm trying to see where we could move it to?
Is March.
You have a
present-
I do.
recommendation? I think probably your expertise
I
in
do.
it.
I'm okay moving it to April, and we did have an additional presentation from our digital learning SAC in April this past year, and that was actually one that was a little bit longer as well. And so we did take that off the calendar and try to smush them together into one. So I'd be comfortable moving the February presentation to our April meeting. And that would be a great overview of the overall district. And by that point in time, we're already up for like renewal. So if you are okay with April, I can move mine to April.
That works. There's already 2 information presentations, and that's a high school presentation and a PA and Bonnie McBath presentation. So there's already 2 presentations. I think really January, February, March, April are all solid. The easiest time of the year, the lightest time of the year is really September, October. So we can move it to April.
I can present today. if you guys want.
Present, because Bonnie McBeth did do a pretty thorough presentation this past year.
Who is that?
I know Plainfield Academy may want to present, there's some changes going on there, so
Yeah.
it's possible that we may only have one of the 2 schools presenting.
Okay. Then April would work then, I think, make it more manageable at least. Okay. Any other questions on the calendar? The next item is also information item, and that's return fiscal year 23.
It's the return 22-23. So we just wanted to give you an update on our return 22-23 plan. Luckily, a lot has changed over the past 2 years. Majority of what you're seeing is up on the website. There is some new information that did come out last week that I'll talk about. It's not in our slides, but will be posted on our website today. So in general, we're going to continue to follow the recommendations from INPH and CDC. Those were greatly loosened last week, which was wonderful news, I think, to everyone. We will include optional masking, improved ventilation. We do have the new updated system at Plainfield High School Central Campus. So that obviously is going to help our students there as well. We are still going to include proper cleaning and disinfection, reinforcing proper hand washing and hygiene, and encouraging routine vaccinations. We have received information that there will be an updated booster in October, November. We have sites that are already asking to partner with us if we'd like to host that in the fall. The last thing we'll be looking at is offering COVID-19 testing as well, but it will again be voluntary. When we look at our COVID-19 guidelines, they are very similar to where we ended last year. That basically if an individual is positive, they will be excluded on days 1 through 5. Individuals may return on day 6 if they mask indoors for the full 10 days. However, if they are still sick on day 6 or after, it should follow the directions that are below. If they're still sick, they should remain home through day 10. And really what we look at is, do you have a fever? Do you continue to have significant symptoms that would impact you or others in the school setting? One thing that did come out last week in the updated guidance is there will be an option for students to return on day 8 without a mask. So we will be adding that to our guidance. The information that came out is that if individuals test and get a negative test on day 6 and day 8, they can actually come back to school on day 8 without a mask. They would have to provide us evidence of those negative tests, and so we'll have a form that they'll have to fill out to show us proof of those negative tests. Because of the complexity of when they have to take the test, I don't know how many people will actually be participating in that, but if they really don't want to wear a mask, that is an option that they will have. Close contacts, we are not excluding. There is a recommendation from IDPH and CDC that close contacts should mask on days 1 through 10. We are not requiring that. We're recommending that for individuals that are close contact. We will be offering though home COVID tests to anyone that has symptoms at school. So if a student comes to the office and has symptoms, when the nurse contacts their family to let them know that they have symptoms, they need to go home, and it could be any kind of symptoms. It doesn't necessarily have to be COVID specific, but our nurses will offer the family a free COVID test that they can take home and test at home. They would not do that test at school. They would be able to take it home and test at the family. And actually the kits that we received today, we received over 12,000 kits. There are 2 tests in each kit. So we'll be distributing those tests to our buildings next week. Last is our screening and testing. We are going to offer the voluntary shield testing, although we have a great option this year that we didn't have before that a lot of our parents and staff asked for. We are offering unobserved shield testing. So if parents want their students to participate in shield testing, but they don't want them missing class, or if staff members want to participate and they don't want to test at school, they can sign up for unobserved testing. They'll get 4 testing vials per month that they can take home and send in their sample on the day that the building is doing testing. So we think that's a great option for our families and staff. They can sign up at any time. So that's something new that we'll be offering this year, and our sign up for shield testing will open up next week, it is open right now, but we're going to advertise it to the public tomorrow. And otherwise, that is it for return 22-23.
Maybe 2 home tests on those 2 days in order to get 2 negatives to bring them and show them.
So what we're looking at is doing a Google form where they would actually have to take a picture of the test with a note next to it indicating what the date is, so they can't just go online and get a picture of anyone's negative COVID
Yeah.
test. It would have to be the test with a picture of that day's date. And so yes, they'd have to send in either evidence from the lab that they took it or a picture of their home test. But IDPH has not said that it has to be a lab-based test on day 6 or 8. It just says test. I really don't know how many families will participate in that. It is a little bit more complex to do.
People have got tests already in their homes.
That's true.
I think I have 4, so.
It's a really good point. That's true. And if I could come back on days 6 and 8, not have to mask, or come back 2 days earlier without a mask, it'd be a good option. Any other questions?
And the contact tracing, then it says in here, so is that mandatory?
So we are not doing contact
It
tracing.
says in here that there's 3 or more.
Currently, we are recommending it if there are 3 or more in a classroom or on a team or an event, or in a club. It is not required. So what we're going to do is really look at, are they 3 kids randomly spaced throughout the classroom? Are they 3 kids in a sport, but the sport really, they're not on the same team? It's a freshman and a junior and a senior. So we're going to look at those. The great news is IDPH last week said they think 3 is too little. So I'm really hoping that they expand that more. It's not a requirement for us to contact trace, so it's highly recommended by CDC and IDPH if you have what they call an outbreak.
I just want to make sure it's not overly burdensome for you all. I mean, that's my concern. I mean, if the CDC is not requiring it, then why are we doing it? I mean, that's, because again, I don't want to be making more burden on the staff. I mean, we should just be following what the experts are telling us. And if they're saying we don't need to do it, then I don't think you all should feel like you have to. If you can do it and you've got the resources and it's not overly burdensome, great, but I don't want anybody to continue to be burdened by this more than we have.
So for right now, we feel like we do have the resources. We do have the health clerks that were funded from ESSERS specifically for contact tracing and anything COVID related. We are almost fully staffed in our health clerks. I believe we're up to 9 health clerks. They would be the primary person responsible for doing that contact tracing if there is an outbreak. So Christina, our nursing supervisor, has met with them, talked to them about that. They feel comfortable in doing that, especially because the contact tracing would just be in that classroom
Very
or with that team, right? We wouldn't be looking to do all 7 of their classes like we used to when they were in high school. They would really be, if you're on cross country, who are the kids that you were around in cross country, maybe who's the small group you were running with. If you're in a classroom, who are the kids sitting immediately around you that we need to really just send letters to families to say, keep an eye out, there's been multiple cases in the classroom. If it gets overly burdensome, we'll definitely revisit it.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
The next item is the program of work out of curriculum and instruction. Each year, we update the board on the program of work, which is really the focus area of curriculum and instruction for the school year. And we break it down by level, K-5, 6, 8, high school 9, 12. Also, we take a look at our bilingual programming, EL programming, and our digital learning. So basically, we're taking a look at 3 things. We're taking a look at what resources would we be looking at this year, whether that is looking to purchase, looking to pilot, or simply exploring. As you know, the purchase of any major resource is a time-consuming process. So we just like to put it on your radar that that's an area of focus. So this year for K-5, we continue to look at K-5 math. Specifically for curriculum, we're looking at systematic phonics, and that's writing curriculum around phonics. And then our program of work is really, this is what we're doing now, and then these are the things that are also coming in the future. So for K-5, we're looking at math, we're looking at systematic phonics, we'll be looking at social studies next year, and language arts the following year. In the middle school, we're focusing with the resources specifically on ELA. The current resource that we use in middle school ELA is coming up on 10 years old. And the vendor is making some changes with their online platform that they can no longer support the resource that we are using because of its age. So we'll be doing really a deep dive into looking at ELA resources for pilot this year. And we'll do our homework in the fall to pilot late fall, early winter. The ELA SAC has been writing the new ELA curriculum now for about 1.5 years. It's been a longer process, really just due to the changes that we've encountered in the last couple of years in education. We have not been able to bring our teachers together in such a large group to write curriculum now for probably over 1.5 years. So the work that they've been doing has been after school, after the school day, in the evenings. And this committee has done a fabulous job of getting started on that. But they will continue to write that curriculum this year. We'll continue to look at the ELA resource. We'll also take a look at continuing to update some of our math assessments. With the focus on math, we've made a lot of changes to our math assessments. We've really taken some of those priority and essential standards and made sure that we're drilling down at the middle school level and at the elementary level. So with the ELA focus, the ELA resource pilot for both this year and next year, and continuing to work on the math assessments, those are the main focus areas, and they're both 2 big, huge content areas to focus on over the next couple of years in middle school. And at the high school level, we are looking at Algebra 1, a geometry resource for next year. We're doing curriculum validation in Algebra 1. The high school math SACs rewrote the math curriculum with the purchase of the new resource for Algebra 1 this year. So we'll spend this fiscal year revisiting all of those assessments and validating, and that just means getting feedback from the teachers on the assessments and what do we need to change and what do we need to add to the assessments or remove from the assessments, and we have a process where they validate. We'll be writing our geometry curriculum at the high school level. We'll be doing validation in US history. We've had some changes to the mandates over the last couple of years, so we'll just be validating and making sure that in the US history curriculum, we have all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed. We'll be taking a look at writing curriculum in computer science and computer literacy, and we'll be validating our health curriculum, again, in response to changes in the mandates that came from the state in the last couple of years around health. Our long-term program of work at the high school level, algebra revisions, geometry developing the curriculum, US history revisions, computer science, and the health revisions. In the bilingual EL programming, we're specifically this year looking at English language development and writing a curriculum, working with teachers to write curriculum to support English language development. With the growth of this program over the last 10 years, there's been some significant needs around what that English language development looks like and when and where in the school day we're providing that. So Cindy Castanon, who's our new director, has a team of teachers assembled and is going to start working with them to write that English language development curriculum. She'll also be looking at resources for that because we currently don't have formal resources for our ELD program. And that's one thing that we heard from the teachers last year, loud and clear, is that we really need a defined resource to support English language development. You know, we have strategies in place, instructional strategies in place in the classroom, but we also are looking for a formal resource to support that. So they will be looking at doing a pilot this year, and also looking at a newcomer resource pilot also during this school year. We have on their fiscal year 23. To be honest, that might be a process that lasts longer than a year. I think it's going to be difficult for us to accomplish that by the end of this year. I think it's more of a 2-year project, but I do appreciate the goal. And then in digital learning, we're focusing on blended learning. That's something that we've introduced to our teachers over the last couple of years, and really having Laura's department work with high school, middle school, and elementary on the digital citizenship curriculum. What does it mean to be a native to the digital world, and how does that encompass in the classroom? And what are our expectations of students? What are our expectations of our teachers in terms of digital citizenship? So that'll be a focus with Laura and with our teachers. Specifically down the road, we will have the digital learning lens as we're looking at our computer apps programs at the middle school. They worked on doing some curriculum revision last year, but you know that world is constantly changing, and we have resources through Laura's initiatives that can be embedded in our classrooms too. So we're really looking at how we can kind of tie the curriculum development of computer science in with the plethora of resources that we have through the initiatives that Laura is leading, and also having Laura involved in the digital learning focus in the high school computer courses as well. That area is an area that's constantly evolving. And when you think you've written the curriculum, you find that there's 10 more fabulous resources out there that you wish that you had incorporated. So, you know, I could imagine that those pieces are going to be a piece that's going to continue, is embedding Laura's role in with curriculum development more. Yeah. So that's our program of work out of CNI for this year. You have any questions for myself or for the director?
I'm good.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thanks. Our next item is an information item. It's an update on what we did this past summer in summer school and what we did this past summer in terms of professional development. The directors are going to lead this presentation.
So I'll start with elementary. We did have elementary still this year. Their second school running it. The ESers going to allow us to do that. And so for elementary, it was K through 5.
identified students who needed support with essential standards and foundational skills. And we focused on ELA, primarily reading and math. So the program ran for 5 weeks, June through July, Monday through Thursday, 3 hours a day. We ended up with 21 classroom teachers, so we had quite a few grade levels with 4, but some grade levels 4th and 5th with only 3 teachers. And we did have 6 subs. We had subs assigned to each grade level. So if they weren't subbing, they were supporting students in small group instruction with that grade level. And they did plan with their grade level teachers as well. We were able to staff it with an administrator, nurse, and office clerks. The capacity was 432. We did offer it, and we ended up getting accepted placement of 327 and then 306 finished. So completion rate was good at 94%, and attendance was good too. So you can see at each grade level, attendance helped sit, and so did enrollment. For middle school, we have multiple programs that we're able to run this summer as well. The first one was the Bridge program. We ran it again this year at all 7 middle schools. This supported 6th grade students as they, 5th grade students as they transition to 6th grade to learn routines, expectations, habits, and really focus on that team building as they start to enter their middle school and learn more about it. That was well received with 265 students. For 6 honors math, this was really for students invitation only that were not in 5th grade honors, but they showed readiness for 6th grade honors. And so they were able to attend over the summer to get some practice on the standards and skills necessary to be prepared for 6 honors. And we had 160 students attend. And then middle school also had an algebra program, invitation only again, 7th grade regular math students who could be successful in Algebra 1 were able to attend over the summer to get prepared for that. And we have 80 students. And then we also had a middle school success program. And this is teacher or admin recommendation for incoming 7th and 8th grade students. And it was small group support, those students who needed extra help in reading, writing, and math. And then for high school, we did have 2 programs. The first one's Plainfield South. And then we had multiple courses running at Plainfield South. You can see them listed there. And then we had our 2 sessions, and you can see the total amount of students. We had really good enrollment for U.S. history. We had high enrollment for government and civics, and also continuity, which is credit recovery. Plainfield North didn't have quite as many students because Plainfield South had a total of 515, but North also had 367 students total attend session 1 and 2. Again, some of the courses are listed there with nice enrollment again with world history, U.S. history, and credit recovery. And the last program we ran again this year was English Learner Program. It is an enrichment program. It is to engage students in learning throughout the summer. It is thematic, so they work on projects. And once a week, a grade level will come in and work on a project. So we had 75 students that attend at Creekside. And these students are in the biliteracy program. So they are learning Spanish and English. And so the program is in Spanish and English. So it supports their bilingual education. And we did have program administrators, 2 teachers running that program this summer. And students attended 1 day a week. Completion rate, every student completed. Attendance rates, you can see there some dropped into the 80s, but that's because there's only 6 sessions. So if they miss one, there's a small number of students that can jump to 80%. But the attendance was good overall. Any questions on summer school?
The invitation programs, are those programs we offered before? Like past years?
Most of them were through the ESSERS grant. And so those were students that were, because we couldn't service all students, they're students identified by the schools as being the students who would benefit most from the programs. Now, if a student or a parent declined, we would go to the next student.
Will we have an idea of the outcome is on giving them that resource before they went? You know, if it was helpful.
Really, it depends on the program, but most of them, all of them were reviewing skills they were already taught, and they weren't given a pre or post assessment with only 4 days and 5 weeks of 20 days. But the teachers all did have their assessments coming into the program, so they know what skills to work on.
And for the middle school programs that were invitation only, this is the second year that we've done the program. So last year, we tracked the iReady data of the students that had done the summer programs. And really, we were looking at the placement of the students compared to their peers who hadn't done the summer programs, but were coming out of gifted. Because the students that were in the invite only in math programs at middle school were students that were not coming out of gifted. Specifically those sixth grade students that went into 6H. So we last year tracked those students and compared them against their peers through iReady data. So we're really looking at growth and where they started and what between that first assessment and the second and the third assessment. So we have that data, we can share that with you. Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
Anything else, Teresa?
Nope, that was it.
So I just have a couple of things. Do we have comparison data, if you don't have it handy, your enrollment to this year for these programs?
We can get there.
Yeah, if we can see that, I think that would
Yeah,
be good.
the enrollment this year was a little less than some of our programs, but we do.
I would say for high school, we're right in about a little bit on the low end, but we're in the definite range. I went back to 2009, 10 and looked at enrollment and so it's fluctuated from a low of about 807 up to a high of about 988. So we were at a total this year of 882. So we're right
there.
in that range of where we've been for.
Yeah, I would assume the high school probably remain pretty constant. I guess it's more focused on the ESSER specifically funded programs. And, did we see that, there was less interest? Is that interest waning somewhat in year two? Because maybe parents weren't as concerned about learning loss, I think that term, but
Well, for the elementary, really, it was staff. We didn't have
Was it?
enough teachers to run more than 3 sections. It came through 4th and 5th. We had 3 sections instead of 4. We just didn't have the staff. As someone accepted an offer, if they declined close to the start date, I pushed a sub in, so we had new subs, but we had no extras by the time school started. So we were very fortunate in when we were not able to fulfill the teaching responsibilities when it started. We didn't have an extra. So we had 4 teachers K through 3, and then 4th and 5th only 3. But that was the decline. We just had 2 less sections of 21. So.
Staffing was a challenge in high school too.
Yeah.
This summer.
burned out.
I think people were
it was
ready
tough.
to step away and recharge, yes.
Yeah. Like Tony was making during
And that's
PPA.
completely understandable.
We did have teachers though that were willing to be creative with us. And one of the math programs, we actually had put a group of students online. We had families that said, I really want my child involved in this, and they qualified, but we can't commit to the days. And then we had teachers that said, I'd really like to help you out, but I can't be in person. So we matched those families up with those teachers, and we did do we did an online program as well.
That's great.
It was creative, and we really appreciate the teachers being willing to work that way. And that's obviously a model for the future that we could take a look at, just to meet the needs of our community.
And that kind of leads to my other question, the future of these programs that are ESSER funded. Do we have ideas of what we would be potentially looking to do next summer? Will we be able to continue these
Yeah, I
again,
think.
or have we not gotten that far yet in planning? I don't want to push us.
Yeah, no, I think as a department, we've obviously had these conversations as the grant has gone on. Because for most of the programs, we've used ESSER out for 2 summers. That's a conversation we're gonna have to continue, and we're gonna have to really bring all departments into that. Examine the costs for the different programs, and every program that we offered under ESSERS was free to the families. And I think that was certainly a big appeal on the part of the families and the numbers that we had, especially in the KA programs where we've never had those kind of programs before. So we'll really need to look at cost and priority and see where the benefit is.
I'm going to talk about our summer professional development. So within the curriculum instruction department, this is really a very busy season for us. As our summertime, as we like to prepare our teachers and give many opportunities for teachers to be able to expand their professional goals. We also, kind of speaking to what we heard, listened to our teachers last year, and there was that burnout. So a lot of our summer PD really happened at the end of the summer this year. We kind of gave everyone that break in June. We had a few small things here and there. And then throughout the end of July and August, we have been incredibly busy. There's been focuses in each one of the levels for both elementary, middle, and high school. But as we work as a department, one of the areas I highlighted based on last year's data was that every level was able to focus on math of some sort. And that was something that from our elementary, middle, and high school, we wanted to maintain a math focus, whether it was within assessments, whether we have cohorts that have formed, new math series at the high school level. And so as each group has their things that are important to them as a district and as a department, we wanted to have that focus on math throughout the summer. So that was really a lot of our summer professional development with our levels. Our next part would have been the digital learning and the linguistics and diversity. I had a lot of digital learning training happening on this summer. We had level 1 and 2 Google certification happening. Our instructional tech coaches met for 2 days at the end of July, and they had a great training. We had leadership training for all building principals, assistant principals, and directors, as well as our ELD, our English Language Development Committee, and our Cultural Competency Committee. They all met throughout the summer as well for some professional development. And as I start to say, our burnout phase was in June. I held our third summer summit in the end of July, pretty much beginning of August. And you can see we had a total staff members in attendance for this virtual training of 1,166. They were excited to come back. I will say we've got an incredibly high energy to start this year. They felt revived. They wanted to learn again. It's been pretty awesome regarding the professional development towards the end of the summer and really getting them ready to start the school year. So we were able to divide up that summer summit in days that were theme selected. So whether it's Google days, whether it is digital app days, I had vendor days, which is really our softwares, and had those companies come in. It was virtual. I was able to provide presentations for our teachers. Our new teacher induction was part of that. So it was pretty outstanding this year. So we had great numbers regarding our PD in the summer. Any questions regarding summer professional development?
I think it was a smart idea to delay some of that.
We felt it last
Give it a
year.
break.
Yeah,
I think that was smart.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Our next information item is summer school 2022 student service.
So our format followed very similar to what C and I just shared. We'll be sharing out information on our ESSERS program that we had, and then Julie will be sharing information out about our extended school year program. So this was our second year of Camp Cares, which is a fully funded program through ESSERS. We were very excited that this year we were able to offer twice as many students the opportunity to participate in Camp Cares. If you recall, last year registration for Camp Cares filled up in I think 20 minutes. And so we clearly had a high demand for that program. So this year they put in a few things to ensure as many students as possible got to access the program. So students were only able to sign up for one session, which did ensure that 800 different students did get to participate in this program. So it was 2 sessions of 4 weeks, and it really focused on social emotional learning, interacting with other students, team building, recreation, arts and crafts, and more. The big part of it was really fostering friendships. How do we develop friendships? How do we just have meaningful activities with other students? And the age range was kindergarten through 8th grade. So the program was offered Monday through Friday. It was 5 days a week. There was a session early in the summer and then a session at the end. This year we were able to put 4 different sites, 1 in each house. That was something we heard loud and clear last year. Since we didn't offer transportation, parents wanted something that was close to their home. So we were able to offer at 4 elementaries, Lincoln, Riverview, Liberty, and Ridge. And we filled up almost immediately and got great feedback from our parents as well as the YMCA. And then Julie's going to share some information about our ESY program.
Sure. So some things that were new this year for our ESY program was that we combined the online registration with the CNI and the summer school program so that it was all in one general location for to reduce that confusion for parents and duplicate registrations. Also, we shortened the time at Bonnie Macbeth for the ESY programs because that's going to equal more of what it looked like for the regular school year, how we do a portion of those hours throughout the day. And then the tiered busing was a huge help. As we know with the busing shortage and all of that, we were able to actually have the buses, it ran very smoothly, much smoother than last year. So having those tiered times really did help get those students to the ESY program. We had a total of 582 students total participate in our ESY program this year, with our highest being at Wallen Oaks, which makes the most sense because that is the majority of our students that, K through 4, some of our 5th graders who we like to see them go on to Drawing Point and have their ESY there. We did have them back at Wallen Oaks just because of staffing purposes. So there was a little bit more at Wallen Oaks this year. But with that being said, we really did pull together all of the teachers, because we were along those same lines as CNI, as staffing was a challenge to find the related staff services, the teachers. But we were able to pull together and be able to support our students that were in attendance. We next year hope to have, if you notice, Wallen Oaks, if we go back, Wallen Oaks student attendance was this year was 295. So it's significantly higher than the other locations. So we're hoping that next year we'll be able to have 2 admins at that building to really help facilitate some of that communication and help support the staff and students there as well. And then our related service providers, they all went from one location to the next. So we didn't necessarily have one related, for example, like speech pathologists, they would start at Bonnie Macbeth, they went to Wallen Oaks, they went over to Drawing Point. They were all over supporting our students this year. We did send out 3 different surveys at the conclusion of our ESY program. So we sent to certified staff, support staff, and to parents. So our highlighting just some points on the staff survey results was that they really appreciated the Institute date. It was organized, it was helpful. There was a lot of different PD built in there that they could attend. One piece that looking at this was that additional support for the student behaviors, needs, and problem solving. So those de-escalation strategies, that's something that we really noted, especially for that certified and non-certified, and really being front loading that with next year for that professional development and pulling people in to help staff identify when students are escalating, how we are helping de-escalate those situations. The bottom part here talked about that stipend. The stipend pay was a big piece this year, something new that we offered. Staff had to work at least 20 days over ESY in order to receive the $1,000 stipend. So of the certified staff, 43 participated in this survey, and support staff 57. So 66 total between the two, which I thought was interesting. So that's what got them to come and work it, was that they received the stipend.
And just to jump in there, stipend was in addition to their ESY pay. So if you recall, we were really suffering from a staffing shortage as we approached ESY. So we were approved to use ESSER's money, the new ARP special ed money that we received to provide a stipend to our staff who participated the 20 days. That was almost every student day. I think there were 22 student days. So they really had to be in front of students almost every day in order to receive the stipend. So we found not only did it encourage staff to sign up for ESY, but it also encouraged attendance. We probably saw the best attendance we've ever seen because they had to be there 20 days in order to get that stipend. So hopefully something we can offer again, because ARP does go through this ESY as well. We'll have to consider what happens after that money is gone.
So some highlights from just the staff survey results was that what worked well was those small class sizes. As we know, that staff to student ratio was really important, especially with our students that have IEPs. Training for new staff to the program. We really worked hard to ensure that staff that were working in some of our multi-needs programs were provided with the training for that. And then just those adjusted start times. and how we did the tiered start times, and some suggestions for improvements. One of the big things that looking through that I saw was the ability for teachers who work with our students throughout the year to provide data sheets and just some more ideas, goal work, different worksheets, just different thematic units and all of that to help support so that our teachers who are teaching ESY don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, and how to target the goal areas for these students. And then another piece that came up was just in school field trips. Guest speakers are in school field trips, but field trips over ESY we don't have enough time in the day, right, to take students out and to go on a field trip. So we were talking about, we'll explore some opportunities for in-school field trips for them for this next year. And then the parent survey results, 74 of our parents participated in this. A high amount talked about the clear communication about the start of ESY, which is great because always in the beginning of the ESY, it's always a lot of juggling in that communication piece. One piece that we can absolutely improve upon moving forward is that receiving that communication, just weekly communication, some sort of communication from the staff that's working with ESY to parents about what they're working on and how they're targeting appropriate goals. A common trend about what parents like best about ESY is that students, that their children had fun. They were excited to come. That was really a common trend and what their responses were. One area for improvement is just more frequent communication. That big piece, communication is key. So that will be something that will be rolled out in a set of expectations as that communication for our families as we go through the 6 weeks of ESY next summer. Student progress. So out of the 43 responses that we had from teachers, they reported that all of our students maintained or improved on their IEP goals, which is fantastic. And then we also reported from the parents' perspective, out of 74 who responded, 50 stated that their child maintained, 21 stated that they improved or made progress, and 3 stated that they had regressed towards their IEP goals. So we made a lot of progress and maintained over the summer, which is our ultimate goal for ESY. For those that don't know, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that maintenance piece. And then extended school highlights. We don't have to hit play, but it's fantastic. Take a minute to look at it. It's cute. They're smiling, they're having fun, and that's ultimately what we want as well. And to continue to maintain towards their goals, but also have fun while they're doing it because it is summer.
I did look at the numbers for enrollment. So we did have slightly lower enrollment than we did the prior year. Although the prior year, we had the highest enrollment ever for ESY, because if you recall, the 2021 school year, students had shortened days. They really did not have a regular school year, but yet we offered a regular ESY program. So what we saw was the highest enrollment ever that summer. This year's enrollment was more typical of what we see during a regular ESY. So that really was the biggest difference. Last year was more students than we've ever seen before.
Did we hire a lot of staff that were not our usual staff?
We did hire about the same as we usually do of external candidates. Some of the external candidates, though, were hired for this school year as teachers. So it was almost a great experience for them to start out over the summer before they started their school year. So, we had a social worker that started over the summer. I believe we had some speech paths as well that started over the summer.
We did, and we had, I think, 2 LBS ones, at least I know it for sure at Wallen Oaks, that were hired as staff moving forward for this school year.
We did advertise that.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I will tell you that there were some staff that came to us to work for ESY and not in their home districts. And I tell you, you guys would make a great addition to Plainfield School.
It's the best recruitment we can do.
Any questions?
Even though it's a small percentage, do we know why they felt like their kids regressed? I mean, the teachers felt like everything was right on level, but you had that small percentage of parents who was like the other way.
I I should I'm gonna look at those 3 specific responses and take a look to see exactly what that is, because I always ask, following in Cheryl's footsteps, I ask if there are students who didn't make progress. And if there were, I want to look at it, and I want to see the data as to why. Was it because they were absent half the time? Was it because they were in a new environment? Like, that's really important information. So I will look further into that to see exactly what those 3 students were. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question.
Great, thanks. We have one more information item, and that is around the mandated units of study for fiscal year 23. As you know, we present this each year. The State Board of Education provides us with mandated units of study. These are areas that are required to be taught in the classroom. There's some language in there specific. What the state did this year is highlighted the specific areas, really just to say to us, make sure you focus on this, make sure you have this covered. So it's a handy dandy little cheat sheet that we're able to use, our directors use, that we've shared with you tonight, that we also share out. So, Dr. McDonald and Mrs. Imberdino will cover this.
So it's a normal occurrence about this time of year. We couple with the board, based on new legislation, the mandated units of study that our teams are focused on. Our process basically is we learn of this new legislation as it occurs. The state gives us kind of a condensed version, as Paula mentioned. And then we pull together SAC teams and teachers, and we work on rewriting our curriculum, and our teachers decide where in our curriculum does this best fit, in which unit or which chapter, and how much time do we need to cover on it. Sometimes it's smaller things, sometimes it's bigger units. So our teachers decide that, and they make those changes to the curriculum and to the assessments. And that's what you see kind of in the last column, is kind of where the teachers have decided that this new legislation or new unit best fits within our current curriculum. So if there's any questions, I won't go through every new mandate, but if anybody has any questions, Michelle or I are here to answer anything.
Here's the sexual abuse education, that HTTP. I tried getting in there so I could look at the book, but I couldn't do it. The trick to getting into the blue.
What happens, great body shape.
It might just be the
The link,
settings,
yeah.
that the link is protected, it's not, maybe in the document, it's not public, so we can go in and look at that.
It's just like.
Yeah.
It wouldn't let me.
Yeah, it's probably just how we have the setting, so
Okay.
we can change that.
So one of them came right up, so the link's not actually coming up with it.
I think
Okay.
it's set to PSD domain, because that's how we have them for our settings. And so we can either send a direct email to you with that access, or we can just open it up to other domains other than PSD.
Okay, I would really like to see age appropriate books.
So you're looking specifically at the sexual abuse education link?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can get that to you.
Those Aaron law books are only available in school. So the Great Body Shop, that curriculum is digital. So you can see the lessons that go home to parents. They get a lesson unit taught. The Aaron's law books are only available in school. They are books. They're not available digital. Those are the same books that were used previously.
The only other thing I wanted to add is last meeting we shared that one of our department goals is communication. So this area has been huge for us on making sure that there's so much that goes on here, especially with our staffs that are a small group of teachers that are working with us, making sure that information is getting out to the building. So these mandated units have been shared with building administrators. At Institute Day, we share with all teachers too, so they have this information. I can speak to the middle school level on our pacing guides and made sure that anything that has a mandated unit, we have underlined, bolded it, made sure that if they're short on time, these are things that cannot be cut. So that's something that we strive really hard to make sure that we conduct communication with that, so everyone's aware of what the students are.
Any further questions? Thank you. And then the last two items are the approval items. Specifically, these two pieces were both on 30-day display. The community service and leadership middle school curriculum, the introduction to journalism middle school curriculum. The 30 days actually Tuesday, so the recommendation is to move that forward to approval to the Wednesday special board meeting.
Those, all right. Plan.
And then if we just look ahead to September, we're looking at approval of the school improvement plans, which will come to this committee. We're going to move the achievement update to October, and we'll switch that out with the gifted honors accelerated programming presentation. And then there's also an information presentation on the CPAC parent presentation plan. That's all we have for tonight.
All right. Anything else on the board? All right, looking for a motion to adjourn. Kathy's motion. Teresa second, all in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. It is 7:24.
Thank you.
We're ready. All right. Take it away.
Okay, first on our agenda for the night, I'll turn over to Rose for the treasurer's report.
We started the month of July with a cash and investment balance of $168,550,984.04. We had revenues in the amount of $9,182,274. We had expenditures in the amount of $18,515,267.53 to leave a cash and investment balance of $159,212,167.20.
Great, any questions?
All right, nothing from me.
Okay, next would be the approval of the payment of bills in the amount of $10,099,513.57. Any questions on the bills? Just a quick tentative budget update. Just a few changes that we've seen come in since the tentative budget was presented on July 25th. The state has released our EBF funding allocation for 2023. We tentatively budgeted that at $108 million. With the allocation, we remained in tier 1 and we're actually allotted $111,443,449. The additional funds help as there's been some requests to move some positions to be paid for through the ESSERS grant for the year. So by putting those in the grant, we'd have to take some of the dollars from the HVAC project going on at Plainfield Central out. So the plan right now is to budget how much money needs to be moved out of ESSERS for the HVAC project. And then we'll take some of the overage in EBF to fund the HVAC project at Central. And then we'll look throughout the next month in terms of are any funds projecting any kind of deficit, and we'll fill in the gaps there.
So you have a plan for the $2.5 million or so to use it, so
Yes.
it won't just fall to the bottom line.
Correct. And you know, and as you see with the kind of the 5-year capital plan, when it's always brought, there's so much work because we have so many buildings that oftentimes there's projects that get pushed down the road. So right now too, we're looking at similar to the chiller that had to be replaced a year early at Trouton Point. Is there anything that's really looking like it's on its last legs that we need to move up on the list? So we'll take a look at all of that and then bring a recommendation with the final budget in September. The other thing would be when we budgeted our insurance, we were looking at a flat 4% increase in the tentative budget. In a few minutes, we'll talk about our insurance renewal, but we will renew at PPO 500 at 5%, the high deductible PPO at 3%, and the HMO at 2%. So we'll go in and actually calculate out those individual increases in the budget. It generally doesn't lead to an extremely significant change, but it will move the dollars around a little bit. And then we're continuing also to monitor the material costs of the capital projects for the year. We know that the chillers are coming right now with extremely long lead time. That means we're having to put rental units in to keep the buildings cool. So all of that we're continuing to monitor to make sure that we're putting the right amounts in the budget there. And then just as a reminder, we'll have our public hearing on September 26th before the adoption of the final budget. Next on the agenda is the approval of the resolution to transfer funds from working cash to various district funds during the 22-23 school year. This is a very standard procedure of the district. It allows us, if we have any funds that are awaiting property tax dollars or evidence-based funding payments, to borrow those to keep their fund balance positive. The only change that you'll see this year compared to prior years would be that historically we've only backed certain funds that get property taxes. This year we are recommending that we and we've consulted with our attorneys at Franzik. It's a perfectly legal way to do this resolution, but we'd also like to back with the evidence-based funding dollars as well. What that allows us to do is, you don't levy into Fund 60 for construction, but you can put EBF dollars into Fund 60. So if we're waiting for a reimbursement from ESSERS to come in order to pay some of those bills, we can then loan it from working cash and then pay the loan back when the ESSERS grant costs come in, because we have to front the costs and then get reimbursed through the ESSERS grant. Next, again, pretty standard. It's a 1-year contract extension for beverage services with Coca-Cola for the 22-23 year. The one noticeable there would be we have a sponsorship funding percentage, generally about $50,000 per year. In speaking with Coca-Cola, they've because we didn't have lunch service for a year, and then we had a free lunch for all program the second year. We have not had any a la carte sales for Coca-Cola in our lunch programs. So the revenue we bring in for that is significantly down. So for this year, what we're going to do is it'll be a percentage based on after we hit a certain threshold, we'll get a percentage of the sales back. And the hope is that we'll get through this year to allow, because Coke continued to pay us that $50,000, even though there was no sales for them coming in. By doing this for a year, we should be able to get back to that traditional $50,000 sponsorship next year. So that's really the only major change in this contract.
I guess that makes sense. They don't get money, so.
Yeah, and it really, in speaking with them, most of the contracts they have, that $50,000 kind of had a contingency based on the number of sales. They could have came in and said, we're not going to be paying that this year. The district had a law in partnership with Coca-Cola. They didn't want to do that. We obviously did not want to see that happen. So this, when we spoke, was kind of the fairest solution we could come up with for both parties.
What's that $50,000 typically used for? Is it just going to the general?
Yeah, it goes into the general education fund. And then usually what we'll do is we don't traditionally base a lot of revenue sources directly into an expenditure, just because it can vary a lot year to year depending on what that revenue source is. But having that consistency in there does allow us to then put more into whether it's school accounts or supply budgets, things like that. In donations and grants, we have a donation received from, it's a Donors Choose for $370 stand-up desk, floor seats, and a desk foot fidget. You'll start to see these come through more. What we've done is we've tried to get some fundraising and cash raising, not a policy, but kind of procedure put in place for the district. We've kind of held a pretty hard stance that things like GoFundMe's are not allowed. Nothing where somebody could raise money and have to accept the dollars into their own bank account and then donate them to the district. In speaking with Dr. Wood and with our cabinet, there are positives to some platforms like Donors Choose, into Amazon wish lists. But when those items are received, they should be still accepted by the board as a donation. So you'll start to see monthly now the Donors Choose fundraisers and the Amazon wish list coming through as a donation item going forward. We had nothing this month on Foresight. For disposal of assets, we have broken printer at transportation. And then we had no property tax appeal. So pretty short agenda for the month. And looking ahead.
Sorry, go
ahead.
The medical, the benefits piece?
Oh, geez, I jumped right over that. I apologize. Checked the wrong box.
That's okay. I didn't say anything earlier.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you were saving it for the end because you know it was.
No. It was a all things considered a pretty good renewal for us. across the board, there's been a trend we're seeing of during COVID, when everything was shut down, nobody went to the doctor. And then following that, everybody started going again, and you saw claims skyrocket. We have a couple claims that were higher, but overall our claim numbers were still pretty good. So as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing a 5% increase to PPO, and then 2% to our HMO, and then 3% to the high deductible PPO. The other change that we'll see, it's needed to stay compliant legally, is that our high deductible plan, the rates will change slightly in terms of the individual deductibles. But other than that, overall, it was a really solid renewal. This will be effective on January 1st, 23. Our dental administration fees and rates are guaranteed until January 1st of 24. Vision's guaranteed until January 1st of 25. And then we get a 2-year rate extension at our current rates for our life, optional life and voluntary AD&D. And then Rose, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add from the renewal, but it was actually really straightforward this year.
Yes, it was. I really don't have anything to add. You covered it.
No. Look at this in totally in depth, but like what percent of our staff approximately does each of the medical plans? You know, like does it say anywhere?
Yeah, we have data. So I can provide you with that information.
I'm just curious, you know, since with the increases, like, I was just curious, like, does that, the fact the one is going up 5%, the other one's dropping 3%, does it make a huge difference since we had budgeted for 4%, like, so you know what I
That's a
mean,
good
like,
question, yeah. How are they gonna balance out if we're looking at? You budgeted for 4%. I had the same question. You budgeted for 4% across the board. Is this gonna end up saving us any money, costing us any more money than what you budgeted, or is it about?
It'll be pretty much a wash. I mean, there's going to be a change. The right now our PPO 500 plan is there's no new enrollments that come into that plan each year. You had to be per our collectively bargained agreement with APT teaching.
It's on page 12.
Oh, is it on
The
page?
breakup.
Okay.
Breakout of.
That's right. Page 12? Yeah.
You had to be a APT member by a certain date to be eligible to be into the PPO 500 plan. So our newer employees kind of funnel into the high deductible plan or the HMO.
Looks like the majority of staff are in the PPO 500.
Correct.
Yes, but that number
That number
continues
can't go
to, right,
Just
to
go down.
whittle down.
As
Yep.
we have retirements and people
People
leaving.
leave and then they have to go into one of the other two.
so the high deductible is actually our lowest?
Correct. And that's our newest plan.
But don't we offer,
Yes,
Money
we offer
into the HSA.
We
contributions,
make a contribution, right? Yeah.
and our benefits team does do presentations to the teachers to explain the difference in the plans, and actually, we have a calculator that shows the savings that you would have in different scenarios based on the information that you have particular to you. Because it is
Yeah.
especially with the contributions
Mhm.
from the district.
if I remember correctly, I thought the contribution from the district pretty much covers the deductible. Pretty close.
It's $1,000 for an individual and $2,000 for family. Right now, the deductible, I believe, is $2,800.
Okay.
And so there's still an amount difference, but the
cost of the premium for the employees is cheaper. So when you do all the math, depending on if you heavily use the plan or you don't use the plan, it's a really good option to use. If you're in the middle, you really have to do the math to figure out whether that would work for you when you compare the other plans. Percentages. Co-pays. There's no other expense. Right, when you hit that $2,800, that's it. Nothing else is out of pocket. It does cover wellness visits. Both of the PPO plans do. It's a good plan.
Not either.
Yeah, and just running the numbers pretty quickly based off this slide, we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of a $20,000 to $25,000 variance. So I don't want to make it sound like it's an insignificant number because that is a lot of money, but on a $370 million budget, it's not a lot of money.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
we're not going to see $1 million shift because of the renewal change.
Right.
Yep. Great. Now going to our look ahead, we've got our annual financial report is being finalized by our auditing team. And we also will have our final budget approval in September.
I did submit that broad piece that they needed from me, so sorry, I was delayed on that. I do not remember receiving the first email from them directly until you sent me the reminder.
Nope, no problem. Yeah, I'd just like to give a lot of credit to Rose and Dawn, who had their accounting team here. That just a tremendous job in working with the auditors and tracking everything down. And never an easy time getting everything ready for them to come in and tear through a year's worth of financials, and then they send an outstanding list each week of things that they're looking for or follow-up questions. And they've been working around the clock to get everything done and prepared. So I'm excited for the conclusion of it because it was a pretty good year for us, but they just did a tremendous job in working with our auditing team at Lauterbach and Amon to get everything complete.
It's been extremely thorough.
Has it?
Yeah, they came with a preliminary list of the things that they needed. And then a little while later, there was an additional list and then an additional list to that. So there's really a lot of information that we were able to provide.
Well, thank you. All right.
That would complete our agenda.
All right, so a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
There's motion, I'll second, all in favor? Aye, we are adjourned. It is 8:26.